expert to National Human Rights Commission and Central Bureau of Investigation, topmost agency of criminal investigation in India since more than a decade, where he has handled around 1,000 complicated and high-profile cases. Dr. Adarsh is visiting faculty to Anglia Ruskin University, Cambridge, UK, National Pergoa University in Ukraine. He has about 30 years of teaching experience and medical legal fieldwork. He has guided 20 PhD postgraduate students and conducted around 5,000 autopsies. He has delivered 5 orations and more than 100 lectures in various scientific conferences all over the world and has published about 100 papers, organized 15 national and international conferences, written 10 chapters in various textbooks, acted as editorial board member and peer reviewer in 20 journals of specialty from India and abroad.
Good morning from India. Guan. I tried to pronounce that. So, greetings from India. It's a pleasure to have it here with our Indian delegation present in this conference. And of course, my sincere thanks to the organizing committee for having me here and sharing my views and experiences of this very, very complicated domain. So thanks again for the whole organizing team for giving me this opportunity to be here among the galaxy of speakers from all over the world. Special thanks to my dear friend, Professor Anuruddhi Adrasinghe, and the whole organizing team of the Center for Gender Studies, University of Kelaniya, Sri Lanka. And I acknowledge the departed souls whose photographs I have taken during my presentation. Disclaimer is also there because some of the pictures might be gory, so viewers' discretion is requested. Few of the cases, of course, I have dealt personally, so I have tried to conceal the identity, but to show some of the findings because it's a forensic settings and all, we are discussing about that might be revealed, but just for the academic purposes. And maybe I'll be putting more questions to all of you rather than answering. So maybe more challenges rather than successes, in other words. So this will be my overview of presentation. I will be covering these aspects during this 25 minutes of talk. Country where I come from, now it has got the dubious distinction of having the largest population in the world. We are having a population of more than 1.46 billion. Out of these, if we talk about the children, that means the below 18 years of age, there are 1/3 of the total population. So in terms of number, it becomes 480 million children in my country. So now you can imagine how much problem we are going to face when we discuss about all these issues. If we talk about the population below 14 years of age, this also amounts to 144 crores. That means 1.44 crores, 14.4 millions as per the. Well, when this kind of news are presented or are depicted in the newspaper, almost every day, somewhere it affects our psyche as well. That look what is happening in whole part of the country. 5-fold hike in the rape cases against the children from 1994 to 2016. That was also as per data. As per the National Crime Records Bureau statistics 2022, when we have specifically tried to monitor the POXO cases, that is to deal with the prevention of sexual offences against the children, we have made it in 2012. I'll come to that later. From 2012, our reporting pattern has become a little bit different, and now you see the number of cases which have been increasing. It looks like they have been increasing. Probably it is because of the You can say previously it could be the underreporting, and now as the awareness is there, the people are coming forward to lodge those cases. So it looks like that the number of cases are increasing from 2014 and onwards. Continuously there is an increasing trend of the POXO cases. And government is definitely, there is a growing alarm or rise in the child sex abuse cases, the NHRC, National Human Rights Commission, 2 years ago in March 2023, took cognizance of all these issues, because they are the advisory body and they advise the guide when the government how to modify the practices and change in the system. Their role also comes into picture. So India is ratified this UN Convention on the Rights of the Child on 12th November 1992. So we have to follow all those. The rights to be protected from all forms of physical as well as mental violence. There was so many discussions and so many, you can say, the complications that to define who is a child, because in different settings, the definition of the children was different. Suppose the pediatrician who was sitting in the hospital setup earlier, so he used to take care of the children up to 12 years of age. Beyond 12 years, they used to be catered into the normal adult OPDs, right? So in terms of that context, the age of the child was 12 years. Then it was increased to 14 years, and there was variation in the different hospitals and the different states. As you know, India is a big country. In fact, it's a continent. If you just compare with the various states, it becomes a continent. So when we talk about the Juvenile Justice Act, earlier the age of the child was 16 years. Then we had changed the Juvenile Justice Act in 2005, and we made it as an 18 years. When we talk about the punishment for the juvenile delinquents, again the age of the child was earlier 16 and it was raised to 18. So depending upon the context, there was no uniformity when you're talking about that who is a child before this act came. Now after the introduction, now it has of course become uniform as 18 years. So this exploitation, and actually we all know that, so I'll be just skipping about that. Coming on to the diagnosis of child abuse, when we see that early diagnosis is the most important, so that the childhood as well as adulthood do not suffer. Evaluation of a child, what we are doing is, or we are advocating it, and of course, as I told you, that whatever is prevalent in say bigger hospital like us may not be there in the local hospital, the district hospital, but we are trying to disseminate this information that it should be like that. So there should be a multidisciplinary team which must include a pediatrician, child psychiatrist, forensic medicine expert. Usually they are not part of the, you can say directly the part of that team. Still, we are growing. And of course the medical social service officials or the workers, and of course we have tried to develop this concept of one-stop crisis center. It used to call earlier. Actually the 2012 was a very significant year in our, you can say, history of India, because at that we also changed our rape law, and it was amended after that Nirbhaya case. So simultaneously we had the POXO Act also in 2012, and in that context specifically we advocated the development of one-stop crisis center. Then we changed to one-stop help center, and now we only called it one-stop center, which where not only the victims of the sexual assault they can be taken care of, but along with all the child abuse cases also can be taken care of that. So we are still developing, not present everywhere, but in tertiary care hospitals and the bigger cities and the public hospitals, we are having that system. Having these trained nurses also to take care of for the abused children, and we are trying to develop the concept of forensic nursing, the trained forensic nurses in due course of time. We are just developing that system, because we found that yes, they are very helpful when we talk about this teamwork and at one-stop center. One most important member which oftenly is neglected or missed is the dermatologist. skin and mineral disease specialist, because skin is the largest and frequently the most traumatized organ. About 90% of the victims of physical abuse, they show skin lesions on the examination, and the diagnostic confirmation and exclusion of certain dermatological diseases must precede reporting to the judicial authorities. Sometimes the pediatrician or the persons who are not well trained to identify those skin lesions might report it in a different manner. So thereby, the presence of that dermatologist in that team is essential, so that he will rule out that there is no disease pertaining to the skin is there and actually the child has been abused only. This pediatric emergency unit where we are having, so we are trying to spread the awareness about all these to the pediatric emergency personnel, because most of the times these cases will be reported to the child emergency or the pediatric emergency. So if they don't have that, if there is a lack of education of health professionals, then many cases might be missed or maybe underdiagnosed, leading to further abuse and sometimes severe and maybe fatal also many of the times. The false reports, the inadequate knowledge, as well as varying cultural and traditional patterns may mask many of the abuse cases, as we have seen during our practice. So when we talk about the examination of that child, again there is a little bit difference when we talk about taking the consent for examining a child, whether it is 18 years or 12 years. So below 12 years, the role of the consent is different. Above 12, between 18, it's different. In what situation, what type of consent is required, that also becomes a little bit challenging sometimes to understand. All the consultation with the child should be in the handwritten notes with diagrams, body charts and photographic documentations. The examination of the clothes, that is also very important. We'll talk about the sexual abuse cases, especially the presence of the seminal stains, the struggling marks, the tears, trace material, etc. That should be done. So that we are trying to advocate, even the basic doctors who are working in the periphery, that at least you must do these kind of things. So complete examination and all, that is essential. The reporting should be in a proper manner, written clearly, and again there is a lot of variation in the reporting pattern. Also, we are trying to address that, to have a uniform guidelines all over the India. So by and large the system is same, but then again there are so much variation in the practices of different states and different hospitals also. So we are trying to have that uniformity in the reporting pattern also, whether it's a postmortem report or it is the medical legal report and all. A little bit about the POXO Act, what is called in short. It was in the protection of children from the sexual offences. This was notified on 14th November. In India, we celebrate the memory of our first Prime Minister, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. So on that day it was notified and amended afterwards in 2021 recently. Here it has been clearly mentioned that any person above 18 years, when we talk about the POXO cases, it will be treated as a child, and this act is specifically a gender neutral offense, gender neutral act. When we talk about the rape act, it is the gender specific act. That means the rape can be committed only against the female, not against the male. But when you talk about the child and POXO cases, this act is a gender neutral and it applies to the male victims also. And there is a mandatory reporting of abuse. As my dear friend from Thailand, he shared that there is no mandatory reporting, probably what I could get. But under the POXO Act, there is mandatory reporting, and every person who suspects or has knowledge of a sexual offense, or even comes to his knowledge that certain child is being abused, he has to report mandatorily to the local police or to the special juvenile police units, which are being, you can say, gradually formed all over the country. So this is mandatory, including the doctor. And here one more provision is there. The non-reporting is punishable up to 1 year of this imprisonment under section 19 and 21 of the POXO Act. So it is mandatory for the doctor also to report if he comes into the knowledge that the child is being abused, sexually abused. Of course, he has to maintain the full confidentiality, and all these trial proceedings also, we have just changed the whole system. Earlier, before the enactment of this act, it was used to be the general trial and all those kind of questions and in the public eyes and all that used to be happening. Now it is a totally closed door system where we have got the dedicated POCSO code. There we deal it the total you can say cases, and there what we call as the in-camera trial. So there is only the child is there, the judge is there, and there is a separation and all what we call as in-camera trial. The victim and the perpetrator, they don't face each other, and there is a barricading between the child and the perpetrator. They don't face each other, and because the identity must not be disclosed and at any point of time, and judge also not directly sits on the bench. It's not face to face, so that the child feels little bit threatened. So that kind of you can say the changes or awareness that is being you can say practiced, and it is said that all these cases they should be dealt in a fast track court. We try to address these and try to, you can say, up to the trial must be finished within 2 months of time. Earlier it used to be not only the years, it used to be the decades. Still the cases go on for decades. But in this particular cases, after this, we have tried that under this act that must be finished within 2 months. So at least, may not be 2 months, but at least 6 months or within 1 year, at least those cases first will be sorted out. When we talk about this, dealing with this, we have got the special vulnerable witness courtroom. They are dedicated and specified unit. So under that whole big court complex, one place will be identified as a, you can say, vulnerable witness courtroom, and there only all the cases will be dealt. So their separate entry will also be separate. They will be brought from the separate entry and exit and all those. So there again, when we talk about that, the whole system of examining starts with the lady PI. So male police inspector cannot deal these type of cases. So lady police inspector has to be there. Lady police constable will accompany that child to the hospital. Medical board will comprise of the gynecologist, that again will be a lady doctor, pediatrician and forensic medicine expert. Of course that depends upon. But the gynecologist must be a lady. It cannot be a male gynecologist when we are talking about dealing with the sexual assault or examining these type of cases. Role of forensic medicine expert. Now I'm sharing few of the cases which we have dealt as a forensic pathologist and as a clinical forensic medicine expert. So that poses a lot of challenge or dilemma. Maybe you can answer. So one 11-year boy, he was brought with the alleged history of death due to fall from a bike 3 days back, suffered head injury, and he was brought dead at my hospital. So the police concern was only the cause of death. That happens usually in the all cases of road traffic accident. But when I examined the case, examined the dead body, I found along with the head injury so many telltale marks of the child abuse. Now you can yourself visualize that how brutally the child was abused over a period of time, because their duration was different, the pattern of the injuries was different, all over his body. Even there were stamping marks of the press, that iron, that cloth iron, what I could correlate, that was pressed over his buttocks and all. And he was an 11-year-old boy. Now you see, it is clearly visible. All those, all over the body, you can say the injuries were there. So typical signs of child abuse, massive abuse, torture, everything was quite evident, right? All over the necks and all. So now, just photographic documentation, you can see the cauliflower shape of the ear. So child has been slapped over a period of time, multiple times, like that. All those, even there was these imprint abrasions over his hands. He was a sick boy. He was wearing a metallic bangle. So it was sometimes it was pressed like that, like that. Now, when we inquired, that actual parent separated few years ago, and this child was living with the present parent, who was the actual father and stepmother from 2 months only. This was the second marriage for both of them 2 years ago. So there was one kid from the previous marriage for both, and this boy from the father and this 12 years girl from the mother. So when we go into the details of that family setting, then we understand that why it is happening. And then the one male child was born 1 year back. The custody battle suit was filed about 6 years back, but settled 2 months before. And there was alleged history of fall from bike. So when he fell from the bike, he was shown to the local doctor only. There was practically no treatment was given. And he was ultimately brought dead to the trauma center. The cause of death for us as a forensic pathologist was simple because he suffered the head injury, died due to subdural hemorrhage. But then what we should do further? Whether we should specifically stick to our domain of conducting the autopsy and just giving cause of death and that's all, or of course we have to document it, but when we have to, whether we have to comment upon all those things, it becomes difficult. Because when the police wants to lodge against the case, then they are asked whom to lodge against the case. It's a case of road traffic accident. The poor guy has died due to road traffic accident. The case will be lodged against that person who has killed, who was on the motorbike or so. What about the parents who have been, you can say, they continuously abusing him? Even if you do that, the police, I try to advocate the police, try to counsel them, but what will you do? They will just fleece the money from the parents only because they are not going to do anything with the parents. For them, the case pertains only as a road traffic accident, cause of death, that's all. So although I have written, but then there was no further proceeding on that line, whether the abuse, what they have perpetrated, so that at least the other children may not suffer because they were having the other children. So how will you rule out that other children will not were not having or were not being abused in their homes? No remedy, no way we can do that, and how the court will view that. So it was a challenge. Another case. A 6 to 7 year old male child was brought from the satellite town of Delhi, that called as Faridabad. Still, they are not aware of these issues at the very grassroots or at the remote level. So our government is taking all those awareness programs and all those to advocate about this menace and how to do reporting, how to do, and then we are also developing the child welfare units, the child welfare units, protection homes, also where they can be checked. And recently the judicial activism is also very much necessary because if they don't understand, again there are so much problem and we are facing that. So different type of settings are there. So here it was a victim was below 18 years of age. So she married with the accused, but he said no, this is not a POXO crime because herself with the consent and all they are going. So different scenarios. A 12-year-old male child was held for rape under POXO. As a 17-year-old girl, she delivered a baby because it is applied for all. So accused was male, so even though he was a 12-year-old child, literally, but then he was held and then again all these. So many judgments and all, different courts have got different understanding. The Supreme Court has made certain advisories on all these intricacies further. And this is the news only day before yesterday that we are talking about whether a consensual sex between a girl of say 16, 17 years and a boy of 16, 17, 18 years, consensual sex, whether it will amount to the POXO Act it will be covered under that or not. So we tried to discuss about all those issues. If they have got the proper understanding and there is no offense involved, it is a mutual consent and the perpetrator himself is less than 18 years, so it should be viewed in a different manner. But then the government, the center, they told the Supreme Court that for all practical purpose the age is uniform and we are not going into the details of that. So it has to be uniform for 18 years. So again, it's a bit complicated when we actually see these type of cases. With this.